So, Mr. Pinchetti, Sie sind in Blut gedreht. Hola, Senor.
Good day, Mr. Manchios. I am Constable Oswald's partner in this investigation.
Be quick and gentle. Some of your colleagues are untrained boors. Although I don't mind meeting young officers. The new blood here.
If you cooperate in finding Fabio's murderer, there will be no need to meet with the Boers again.
That voice. Werner's friend? You're the policeman. What a disappointment.
Only an undercover agent can scour a ditch full of deviants. I am a consulting detective, although I'm capable of replacing the entire department through my consultations.
Sharp-tongued, I like it. May I presume this tongue will get us out of this trouble? I would be so indebted and glad to repay you.
Nothing's changed. I'm looking for the murderer. That's the only way to get us out of trouble.
But it shouldn't take much time, correct? We're all busy after all.
I need to examine you first.
Lassen Sie mich Sie untersuchen. Rouge, trägt Schminke. Cute. Die Backen. Rote Punkte, Ausschlag von Haarfärbemittel. Oh, das ist aber nicht gut. Seife unter den Fingernägeln, wusch in Eile seine Hände. Ah ja. Hochwertiges poliertes Leder, sehr teuer. Sauberkeitsfanatiker verbirgt sein wahres Alter. Okay, Sauberkeitsfanatiker. Kurt Menches ist ein äußerst reicher, exzentrischer und frivoler Mann. Er ist der Veranstalter der Feste für die Elite Coronas und der Eigentümer des Menches-Anwesens. Er verbringt sein Leben in Gesellschaft ähnlicher, überprivilegierter Menschen. Dieses frivole Lebenswandel hat ihn allerdings extrem vorsichtig werden lassen, was seine Gesundheit anbelangt. Er setzt in diesem Zusammenhang so viele Chemikalien und Haarmittel ein, dass er damit seiner Haut schadet. Kurt Menches ist ein äußerst reicher, exzentrischer und frivoler Mann. Ja. Allerdings möchte Mr. Menches sein wahres Alter vor den jüngeren Gästen seiner Feste verbergen. Das Altern bereitet ihm so große Sorgen, dass er sich schminkt und seine Haare färbt, um junger zu wirken. Ja, warum nicht?
You are a little over the top with your use of makeup, Mr. Manchios. Is it so difficult for you to acknowledge your age?
Well, Sherlock, that's easy for you to say to an old man when you look as though you are barely 15.
But still, it shouldn't be an issue for someone of your status.
For people of my age, it isn't an issue, no. But the younger ones can be so afraid of wrinkles and grey flecks. I have to adapt.
Such a methodical man who cares for his body but misses the soap under his fingernails. Are you so impatient, or perhaps even impulsive?
I wouldn't call myself that. Silly little details. If I missed it, it wasn't important. Or rather, it was less important than who or what I was focused on.
Mr. Vogel told me a little about your parties, but I would like to know more directly from you.
I'm all yours, Sherlock. You have me arrested and locked here, with you alone.
Why did you invite Mr. Vogel as your special guest?
He's a pretty fellow. He's capable of surprising the public. He has a talent for saying words that no one else would wish to either say or hear.
I suppose I can't argue with that.
He is a free addition to the eccentricity of the party, which is fine by me, as long as it enhances my party.
I'd like to know who you usually invite to your parties.
Free minds who are able to leave reality for an evening, who can taste forbidden fruit without prejudice. There is nothing that quite spices up life like these parties, assuming one is old enough and has worked many years for the good of one's country.
Oh, all true labourers, I see. What was Fabio like? His personality, his habits? Anything you can tell me?
He was the brightest star of my parties. Young, magnetic, and full of energy. I don't even want to mention his beauty. Otherwise, I'll be sobbing.
An expensive champion, I imagine.
His performances were flawless. He deserved his payment. Do you think he was murdered because of money?
Possibly. What about the other guests? Were they used to opening their wallets as well?
I wouldn't restrict my guests from anything. I'm sure Fabio received a few coins from others for his services.
Do you have any idea who tipped off the police to raid your mansion, Mr. Manchios?
Of course. It was you. I could even say you Sherlocked me in here.
A good guess, but the wrong one. The fellow who did that was Mr. Pinchetti, your major domo.
What? Santos? But how could he even know? If he's not the murderer himself. The ungrateful swine. He has dared to besmirch my reputation.
Not a very eloquent choice of words.
What should I call him then, since he's a snitch? Make him talk, Sherlock. I'm quite certain he knows more about the murder than he has told the police.
You bought an expensive pair of cufflinks for Fabio. Were they his price? Or were they a tip for an exclusive show?
It was pure business. Fabio escorted me a few times. I was merely showing my gratitude.
This pair cost a small fortune. You must be extremely grateful then. Tell me more.
You've thrust a knife in an exposed nerve, Sherlock. Yes, he was my protégé and my beacon also. With my experience and his beauty, we could have achieved anything. I had faith in him. I would have made him.
Matista wurde von Gästen verletzt. Matista erlitt Verletzungen, da stürmische Gäste der Abendgesellschaft grob mit ihr umgingen. Mr. Manches wusch sich nach dem Mord. Kurt Manches wusch sich nach Fabios Ermordung das Blut ab. Mr. Manches machte sich nur frisch. Kurt Manches machte sich für Ausschweifungen frisch. Schauen wir mal noch weiter. Hatte Gefühle. Fabio verletzte Matista. Bei den Handgreiflichkeiten in der Raucherlounge verletzte Fabio Matista. Matista wurde von Gästen verletzt. Matista erlitt Verletzungen, da stürmische Gäste der Abendgesellschaft grob mit ihr umgingen. Okay. Können wir noch nicht sagen. Und?
The snitch? Have you seen him? I mean, my breath could knock him down. What's so special about him?
As a major domo, he has keys that open all the rooms, including the one to the crime scene. Could have testified only to circumvent suspicion, don't you think? We need to question him.
Right. I'll send our men to fetch him. Stay here. They brought him in, Mr. Holmes. Here's the key to interrogation room number 7. Mr. Pinchetti didn't even resist, our men said.
Thank you.
You can question Mr. Pinchetti in the interrogation room.
Cool. Soll da Lips offen? 7. Post around 7, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hey, yo.
Mr. Pinchetti, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald.
I've already told him everything I know. I'm only a witness, sir. Everything's in my report.
And I've read it. You forgot to mention that you hold the keys to the room where Fabio was found. I need only to find if the crime was intentional.
But I need to return to my duties.
I doubt the house will fall without you, Mr. Pinchetti. Just be still for a few seconds.
Okay. Hautentzündung, Schuppenflechte oder Allergie. Geflickte Löcher, mehrmals repariert. Kleiner Blutfleck in Blut getreten. So, Mr. Pinchetti, Sie sind in Blut getreten. Oh, so komisch. Gefärbter Stoff, mehrmals nachgefärbt. Finanzielle Schwierigkeiten, unglaublich geizig. Finanzielle Schwierigkeiten. Santos Pinchetti ist der oberste Diener auf dem Menches-Anwesen. Obwohl er die höchste Position unter den Bediensteten im Haushalt innehat, scheint er arm zu sein. Sein Körper zeigt Anzeichen von Schuppenflechte. Mr. Pinchetti verbirgt seine kranke Haut unter Schminke. Der Anzug des Haushofmeisters weist mehrere Löcher auf, die geflickt oder genäht wurden. Damit der Anzug neu erwirkt, hat Mr. Pinchetti ihn gefärbt. Mr. Pinchetti scheint zwar über ausreichend Geld für das alltägliche Leben zu verfügen, gibt aber so wenig wie möglich davon aus. Unreinheiten seines Körpers kaschiert er mit Schminke. Für ein zeitgemäßes Äußeres hat Mr. Pinchetti seinen Anzug mehrfach neu gefärbt. Um noch mehr Geld sparen zu können, hat er mehrere Löcher in seinem Anzug selbst geflickt.
Is your greedy nature responsible for the lack of taste and attention to your appearance? The cheap makeup, shabby and dyed clothes? How do you explain those, Majordomo?
The means to practice my profession are limited. I'm sorry you noticed it, sir.
The parties overshadowed your state. You are lucky Kurt Manchios's attention was concentrated elsewhere. In a decent household, you would be asked to leave for far less.
Yes, his attention was undoubtedly concentrated on something other than my appearance.
But one detail stands out on your dirty rags and shoes. The drops of blood.
Oh, that. I don't know anything about it.
Did you know Fabio?
Not personally. He was a frequent guest, and cleaning the mess after his performances was tedious. Mr. Manchios always had a role for him, and mainly the leading one. The parties were always Fabio-centric.
And Matista? Was she as popular as her partner?
Don't tell her I said this, but I do not think so. Mr. Manchios hired her only because Fabio refused to work without her. Mr. Manchios used to see her as a worker. She was tasked with entertaining the guests, unlike Fabio, who could pick and choose.
I recognize the key from the altar room among these.
Kurt Menches Testament und Notiz. Eine kurze Notiz, die dem Testament beigefügt wurde, lautet: Santos, mein närrischer Faulpelz, du hast mich angefleht, dich in meinem Testament zu berücksichtigen, und das habe ich hiermit getan. Anbei die aktuelle Fassung meines Testaments, Kurt. Ein Auszug aus dem Testament lautet: Santos Pinchetti, Haushofmeister des Menches Anwesen, erhält ein Glas Bart und eine okay, und eine Salzlampe, damit er sich stets an seinen fürsorglichen Arbeitgeber Kurt Menches erinnert. Der steht richtig gruselig da. Blut auf Mr. Pinchettis Schuh. Mr. Pinchetti übersah den Blutfleck. Santos Pinchetti übersah den Blutfleck seitlich auf seinem Schuh, als er sich nach dem Mord wusch. Mr. Pinchetti übersah den Blutfleck. Mr. Pinchetti trat versehentlich in Blut. Es könnte alles sein. Will ich jetzt nicht mich festlegen hier. Wir gehen mal. Wo war? Da. Hey, du.
I've read the letter about your will. A harsh method of ridiculing Santos. I doubt he will use mustache wax when he wears no mustache to begin with.
Where did you get it? Is the slug here? Tell him I shouldn't have to provide for him. He's a grown man who shouldn't sit on his uncle's neck. He conceives himself as my only heir.
And who is he to you?
He's a leech on my aging body. He has only added problems to my life since the death of his mother.
I fail to see why you made him your major domo.
He needed to know his place, so I taught him. I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Mr. Manchios says that you begged him to be included in the heritage. Isn't that a little extreme, even for a major domo?
He's not only my employer, he's my uncle. And I'm his next of kin. The only one. Mr. Manchios flatly refuses to pay a family member. All I have to do is repay his so-called love, cleaning up the filth after perverts and decadents. He's imprisoned me. The best I can hope for is a new broom. That's why I wanted to have my part of the inheritance.
Is it that bad? You have a roof above your head, a salary, and the status of a major domo.
For God's sake. I'm forced to dye and stitch my threadbare clothes, and the holes in my shoes are painful. I'm ashamed every time a guest looks at me closely.
Why do you think your uncle treats you this way?
My mother, my uncle's sister, had me illegitimately. She died, and I was given the surname of one of the maids.
But you are entitled to some of the money that belongs to your family.
He thinks not. I was not responsible for my mother's death. I work hard, and he pays me nothing. I feed on the leftovers. While he wastes our estate's property on decadent parties, he paid Fabio handsomely and showered him with expensive gifts for their disgusting relationship. Please let me out.
Please let me out. Oh, okay. Mr. Pichetti möchte Mr. Manches Besitz erben. Er ist der Meinung, dass sein Onkel Mr. Manches seine Hingabe und Mühen als Haushofmeister nicht zu würdigen weiß. Heieieiei. Mr. Pinchetti hoffte vergeblich auf Erbe. Santos Pinchetti arbeitete unter miserablen Bedingungen für Mr. Manches, weil er hoffte zu erben. Vergeblich.
Good day. Your ticket, please, if you want me to help you.
I'd like to check the evidence from this case.
And who are you?
Oswald sent me. I'm a consulting detective.
His partner, then? Let me see. Ah, a ritual murder. What a bunch of degenerates. Wait a second. I'll bring it to the table.
All the keys of the mansion on one golden ring. It's a miracle this ruby hasn't tempted anyone. A heavily perfumed handkerchief with the initials KM in the corner. That's not for bedtime reading. This ex libris belongs to Manchios' library.
Die Macht der Liebe, Blut und Alraune. Bei der Festnahme von Matista fand die Polizei dieses okkulte Buch in ihrer Tasche. Dem Ex Libris zufolge stammt das Buch aus Mr. Manches Bibliothek. Es beinhaltet Illustrationen und Beschreibungen eines Rituals, das dem Ritual auf Mr. Manches Anwesen ähnelt. Bereite den nackten Körper der kürzlich verstorbenen Person vor. Male Symbole der Planeten Mars und Venus auf, um die Kraft, die du besitzt, zu verstärken und um dir die Kraft der männlichen und weiblichen Natur zunutze zu machen. Durchbohre das Herz der Person mit einem goldenen Dolch, um das Blut entweichen zu lassen, das dich nicht liebt. Male ein Symbol auf, das deine Liebe repräsentiert. Sage, während du auf die Wiederbelebung wartest, die Zauberformel auf.
The book describes a ritual similar to the one performed in the altar room. Her key to the altar room. A handcrafted charm that contains hair and nail clippings.
Fabius Brief. Dieser Brief befindet sich im Beweismittelbehälter von Werner Vogel. Was fällt Ihnen eigentlich ein? Sie können Ihre Verbitterung einfach nicht im Zaum halten, zumindest nicht in meiner Nähe. Für mich ist es ein viel zu großes Risiko geworden, solch ein Verhalten einfach hinzunehmen. Es geht niemandem etwas an, mit wem ich rede, spiele und zusammen bin. Da hat sich niemand einzumischen. Ich lasse mir nicht alles gefallen, wie Matista. Sie bezahlen mich, aber deswegen bin ich noch lange nicht ihr Eigentum. Natürlich werde ich ihre großzügigen Geschenke behalten, auch wenn sie ihren letzten fürchterlichen Ausbruch nicht ungeschehen machen können. Ich verlasse sie, Matista wird aber bleiben. Fabio.
Not the time for privacy. An emergency kit for boredom. Werner's personal sketchbook. Thank you, officer.
War der Brief für Mr. Manches gedacht? Santos Pinchettis Aussage und der Inhalt des Briefes deuten darauf hin, dass der Brief für Kurt Manches bestimmt war. Tod im Tresor. Ein mitgehörtes Gespräch weckte meine Neugierde. Basilio Copello, Inhaber der bekannten Sicherheitsfirma Amor Capella, wurde festgenommen. Er befindet sich in einer misslichen Lage, da in seinem Firmengebäude eine Leiche in einem Tresor gefunden wurde. Basilio Copello beteuert seine Unschuld, aber die Faktenlage spricht gegen ihn. Er wird in einer Zelle der Polizeiwache festgehalten.
In the police. Let's pretend to be cops, eh? We can just stand around and look confused.
Oh mein Gott, Leute, das sind alles Fälle, die wir noch nicht gemacht haben. Just saying. Dieses Spiel wird mich einfach mein Leben lang verfolgen. Ich werde nie aufhören zu spielen.